Welcome back. In today's episode, we have part 2 of the interview with Tracey Minutolo. Today, we're going to discuss the importance of knowing yourself before you know your client. How to determine your true worth and your value. A great tool of how to stay accountable. And finally, what is Tracey's number 1 tip on execution?
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. Tell me some of your biggest weaknesses. I know some of your strengths here. Tell me some of your weaknesses.
Yeah, and this is interesting too, because I think I'm relatively new to coaching, I guess, under that banner of coaching anyway. But I've been a supervisor and I've kind of coached and developed folks for as long as I can remember. I was the one who was 17 years old and was put in charge of like the fast food restaurant in the evening on the evening shift, and kind of like given this leadership role very early on in my life. So I've always kind of been in that place where people come to me for advice, people sit down, and I help as best I can. And I've loved, especially as I've gotten a little older, I've loved being able to develop like younger employees at the different companies I've been at. But I think what I'm realizing now is I've made the move into coaching. And it's really only been about 9-10 months. So I am a relatively new coach. I realize that I can be kind of, for lack of a better term, I can be kind of a bulldozer. So, and it might come from, just what I do for my day job as well. It's like, I love scheduling. I love keeping things on track and moving forward. And it's like, boom, 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 let's get this done. I give assignments. I want folks to come back with that done. And, so I'm working really hard to be a little bit more, I guess, conscious and aware of my tendency to do that, to be a bulldozer rather than like sit back and really, I guess, understand what's happening with a client at any given time and maybe why they may be struggling with a certain part of, the process, the side business process, whatever it might be. And just to try to soften up my approach a little bit. And it's been a great year for me for that as well, because I've had various types of clients. I've had some that were way more like task oriented, where they, I would give an assignment and they would just go out and knock it out. And I was just like, awesome. And we were moving forward really quickly. And I've had some clients where it took a little bit more time and a little more like, okay, slow the pace down. Because in my head, I'm like, we're on a schedule.
That's right. Let's get this done.
Well, and the reason is because I want to deliver. I want to deliver the best for them as well. I want them to, get into this new business and get what they want. Yeah. And so it's really just me kind of, but I realize that it can come off sometimes as maybe just a little bit too much. So that's kind of been the theme. And maybe I'll be taking this into 2017 with me. Maybe it's just to soften it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's difficult. I do business consulting, and the way I structure my consulting is if I don't get you 300% ROI, you get your money back. So I can fall right into that category. It's like, look, come on, let's go. We're moving. We got to get this done. And, for some, it's a new sense of urgency. It's a new sense of movement. And not everybody's in tune with that. So, yeah, I can run them over as well. But I'm like, all right, come on. I'm going to drag you over the finish line here. We're going to make this.
Yeah, and I think that's one of my strong suits too. So it's weakness, but it's for some people. But also, I think for some people, it's like, I just want this accountability. Like I want, I had one client that I work with, and she ended up starting a marketing business for other coaches, and so she, really appreciated. Like she's like, I did all this because I knew you were going to check on me. I was just like, boom, 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 like let's get this done, and so it was great. But yeah, like I realize that there's a balance there as well, and so. I don't know. I love it. And maybe this is also because I am a side hustling coach who coaches on side hustles. I don't know. But I'm really enjoying the process. And I know, part of it is just because maybe because like I'm not relying on coaching income to support myself. I can really just fully give myself to this in like a passion project sense, I guess. It's just something that I really love so much that I want to continue to develop and improve and just level up my coaching. So
Right, and it's called side hustling, not side coaching. Oh, I'm sorry, coasting or side walking or meandering. It's hustling.
right,
It's in the word.
exactly.
Give us an epic failure along the way. In other words, you were set up, you're going to execute on something, and it's like it just didn't work. And what are some of the lessons that you learned from it?
Let's see. So since I am a relatively new coach, I don't have any like epic failures. I had a lot of learning that
All
I
right,
did
so give us
this
one of the
past year.
learnings.
Some of it just involved advocating for myself or standing up for myself, in the face of, I guess, maybe like a negotiation process that could have gone one way or another. And in the past, I have been very, what's the word? I don't know. I've just been very agreeable with everything. And so and the experience, I mean, I don't want to paint this as a negative experience. It wasn't. I think this was something that needed to happen for me to kind of grow into where I am now. But I had been working as a VA for a client for almost 2 years, and he was amazing, just an amazing client. And so I was working on the podcast behind the scenes and just doing various other things, but also interacting with his community. And this is kind of what turned into my first coaching opportunity. I ended up getting an opportunity to coach inside of one of his programs. And it was awesome. And that's kind of what, I guess, pushed me forward into where I am now. But at one point, we were discussing like an agreement to where to move forward together, like me working with his company. So I had already started my little thing on the side as well, but I also had an opportunity to continue working with him. He put forth an agreement, and I guess I didn't agree. I didn't really with the split, I guess, in terms of not just the way that the revenue would have broken down, but also just with what my responsibilities would have been. And so it just, for me, it caused me a little bit of internal turmoil, because like I said, I tend to be pretty agreeable, but in the end, like I had the conversation. I stood up and I said, hey, this isn't really going to work for me. And it was fine. And, we moved forward. We're still friends. He's an amazing guy. And I think this was part of my growth process. Like just realizing that if something doesn't feel like it's right, it just doesn't feel like, that's the best move for you. I think it's really important to pay attention to that gut feeling, and really just to be able to be like, okay, no, I'm actually just going to go and do this thing my way instead.
What are some of your daily habits, important daily habits?
So I get up really early, probably obscenely early for some folks' taste, I think. But because I am a side hustler, I do need to get up quite a bit earlier in order to get work done before I leave for my day job. So I work from 9 to 6 during the day. I leave the house at 8:30. So on most weekdays, I am up by 5:30 in the morning. And I'm at my computer. I'll get my coffee and I'm working. I also do want to put in a quick little plug, if that's okay, for a tool, a virtual co-working tool that I discovered, which has completely leveled up my morning productivity game. It's called FocusMate. And you can find out about it at focusmate.co. But it's basically a service, and I don't get anything for this, by the way. It's a totally free service. I just am kind of an evangelist of the service, because especially if you operate with some need for accountability. If accountability really makes a difference in helping you get things done, this is a great service, because you can sign up for a particular time of the day, a co-working session, and the system allows you to pair up with somebody else who then you guys sign on at the same time, and you sit down and you're basically virtually co-working together. So it's helped me, rather than getting up at maybe like 6, now I'm getting up at 5, because I know I have a FocusMate appointment at 5 a.m. So I'm able to get, out of bed, get to the computer and get my coffee and get going. And so it's really made a huge difference for me. I highly recommend it to anybody, especially if you're in a place where you need to like maximize your productivity.
So that's a great tip. Now, what happens on those calls?
So essentially, I'll take it back one step. There's a dashboard where folks can put in requests for sessions. So you can put in a session, and mine are usually at 5 a.m. and they're 75-minute sessions. So you put in, and then if that time and day works for somebody else, they can grab the session, and then you're paired up or you can go in conversely and pick a session that's in the dashboard already, and then the system will send you a link. And it is a service that's similar to Zoom. I can't recall the name of it right now, but you get a link, and you basically, at the time, the scheduled session, you just click on the link, jump into this similar to like a Zoom window where the two of you are there, and you state your intention for the session. So that's another good thing, is that it forces you to get clarity around, okay, I'm up early now. What am I going to do with this hour and 15? So you list out what you're going to achieve. The other person does the same. And essentially you're off and working. And you don't talk or anything like that during that.
Got it.
But the other person is there, and you can see them. And some folks like to leave their volume on so you can hear people clicking away on their keyboard. And it's fun. It's a good way to meet new people, because you do chit chat a little bit in the beginning. But then you're just getting your work done, and it's cool.
That's very interesting. Yeah, but when you said that, I was like, well, wait a second. There's an hour and 15 minutes. What are we talking about? But that's great. So it's on, and you're just doing your thing. At the end, at the end of the 75 minutes, you're like, I did it. I did what I said I was going to do. Very neat. Great tool.
Yep. And it's totally free. Focusmate.co.
Love it. I'll have to check that out and recommend it to my clients.
Yeah.
Execution. That's really at the core of everything that I do. I work with people that want to get things done. And if they're getting stuck somewhere, figure out how to get them unstuck. How do you execute? What are your tools? What are the tricks? How do you get execution done?
So one thing I do, like I said, I use those Focusmate tools to get myself in front of the computer at the time I need to. So I also have to have an understanding of how long certain things are going to take me. And at this point now with my side business, I've got a great understanding of that. But it also just requires a bit of planning. So for the most part now, I'm using a paper journal. So I have a self journal, the Best Self company. So it allows me to basically plan out what I have to get done for a particular day, a particular week. And it also does employ some time blocking, a time blocking tool. So, and that's another thing that's been really, really amazing for me, especially as a side hustler, to make the most out of my day.
So important.
So that's really what it is. I think in terms of executing, it's first of all, you need to know what it is you need to execute on. So it requires an ability to kind of look at what's on your list and determine what the top priority is, and make sure that that's the thing that, if at all possible, you get done first in the morning or whenever it is that you're working. But yeah, so that's been huge.
Do you generally try to get some things done in the morning before you get to your 9 to 5 on your side gig?
Yeah, that's actually when I get most of my work done for my side hustle. I work on the side hustle from 5:30 to about 7:30, 8 a.m. And I quickly get ready for work and run up the highway. But then I also work on Sundays. I have about a 4-hour chunk on Sundays that I work to.
And we're recording on Sunday as it is right now.
Yep.
And it's early for you. It's what, 9 a.m.?
10:30.
Okay. If you had an hour to interview anyone, dead or alive, who would it be, and what would you ask him or her?
Oh, wow. That's an awesome question. I think, wow. And from like it's interesting because from like a business entrepreneurial standpoint, I probably would want to sit down with John Lee Dumas and just talk to him for an hour. And it's crazy because he's in San Diego, so I could.
He's actually in Puerto Rico now. He moved.
Oh, did he move?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think
he was in San Diego.
Yeah, and I think you can get him for an hour. I think it's like $8.95 for the hour.
That's a deal. What a steal.
Yeah, absolutely. He's amazing.
Yeah, I think I would probably just want to just maybe talk about, I guess, like sustaining motivation and just kind of because it's like in the face of like so many things that could go wrong, or could maybe, if you're launching something brand new, that it may not take off, and how long sometimes things take in order to catch on. Sometimes it's a slow process in terms of audience building and things along those lines, because that's something I'm looking to do. I don't know if I'm going to start a podcast at this point, but just audience building and how long sometimes it might take, and just kind of hanging in there and believing that, everything, the work that you're doing will pay off. And so he's somebody that I saw that just kind of like took the ball and ran with it and created something really amazing.
He did. As a matter of fact, I've got an interesting story about John. When I was thinking about starting the podcast, I was looking around to see who was doing what. I'm a member of Entrepreneurs Organization. It's called EO. So when I saw EO on fire, I thought it was actually part of the organization that I'm a member of. And the guy is just a superstar. He has an amazing podcast. And he was very helpful in figuring out what sort of equipment, how to set it all up and do the whole thing. So I really just modeled what he was doing. And I was getting to the point where I was almost ready to start. And I'm like, okay, I've got to get better at the interviews. I've got to get better with the process, etc. And then one day, I hadn't even started yet. I said, you know what? I want to hear what John sounded like on his first episode. And I went back and I found episode 1. I listened to it. I chuckled a little bit. And the next day I started. Because what I realized is it doesn't matter where you start. It is not going to be as good as you want it to be. Mm-hmm. John was not good in his first episode. And it was an inspiration to me to know that my first episode is going to suck. It's not going to be good. I mean, it's not. And it wasn't. And it still isn't. And I keep it up, obviously. And it reminds me of where I started and where I've gone to. And everyone, when you start, you're not going to be an expert. You're not going to be great. Just do it, and you're going to get better. Just keep working at it. So that's a great story with John.
Yeah, definitely. And it helps if you enjoy what you're doing, and you just have to learn to, I guess the journey is part of the thing, I guess. I don't know. The journey is, for me, at least with this coaching thing that I'm embarking on here, it's awesome. I think this is as lit up as I've been about pretty much anything I can think of in my life. So
yeah, well, what you're doing is you're helping other people reach their dreams. And when you're doing that and you get outside of yourself and it's not about you and it's about helping others, that's when the magic happens.
Definitely.
So that's awesome. Well, do it. The podcast takes a lot of time. I broadcast every day. And it takes up a lot of time. But what I realize is I wanted an opportunity to create something that was going to be here long past I pass. And to have something, and I'm not a great writer. And to sit down and write like a blog, man, I'd rather stick needles in my eye. But talking or video or something like that, that's great. And literally before I start every single episode, I do a little prayer, and it's about who is this going to reach? I've been doing work outside of what I'm doing here with the podcast for quite a number of years in helping people get through certain things in their lives. And it's amazing how often people come back to me year after year, 10 years later, and go, Thor, that thing you said 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, it changed my life. And of course, at that time, I don't remember what it was. I generally remember the individual, their face. And so often, it is literally 2 weeks ago, true story. A man came to me and said, "You changed my life. Thank you." I was like, "I'm blessed. Thank you. What did I say?" And he goes, "You looked at me. You looked in my eyes, and you said, 'You know the right thing to do.'" And he goes, "That was it. That's all I needed to hear."
Wow.
And it was like, who can't say you know the right thing to do? And it flows through you. So when you're working and you're helping and your mission is to serve others, it just comes through. It's not about me. So that lights me up too. So I get it. And a lot of people listening to this show have the same mindset. So keep it up. Keep doing it.
Thank you. Thank you. And just a quick note on content and types of content. I have a couple of clients and a couple of folks in my Facebook group that don't like to blog either. But I think everybody feels like they need to blog. And so I've had folks, we have like an accountability post in the group every week. And on Mondays, it's always like, write a blog post. And then on Friday, it's like, I didn't write that blog post. But what I've been trying to tell them is that, the content comes in so many different forms, and I think the most impactful, most powerful content you can produce is the content you enjoy producing. So if it's video, if it's a podcast, I say go for it.
Yeah. Just pick something and get your message out there. You'd be surprised at how many people need to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time. and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day. That concludes part 2 of the interview with Tracey Minutolo. Please stay tuned later this week for part 3.